I'm giving out one bet for every single fight this weekend. UFC 317, Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. Now, if you're new here, I'm not breaking down these fights. I'm not picking winners. I'm giving you one bet for every single fight on every single UFC card. But the deal is, if I miss more bets than I give out, I got to do a giveaway to you guys, and that happened last week. There was 11 fights. We only hit 5 bets. So one person who comments on this video, I don't care what it is. You can comment some hate, comment some love, comment your favorite picks. It does not matter to me. We're going to give away another couple $100 of Ghost products. I got shaker bottles. We got greens. I believe I got creatine. I got proteins. I've got all the energy drinks that some of them not even in stores yet, flavors that you probably haven't seen or have not tried. I got hydration drinks, all of the above, and I'm going to be sending it to one person who comments anything in the comments. Now, if you guys do want to support me, win or lose, the best way to do so is not to donate money to me or hit the dono button or send me any kind of that. All you got to do is go to Better Picks, the DFS app, and try to win yourself some money. Just use my code when you sign up. Code Nolan gets you a 100% deposit match bonus, and you can make an 8-leg parlay, choose an over or unders, and win up to 100 times your money. So that's what I want you guys to do. If you're wanting to support me, go try to put extra money in your pocket. Better Picks, Code Nolan. Go get rich this weekend at UFC 317. And last but not least, if you want to get all of my bets, go to winnable.com/HOFpicks and use code 317. You're going to get them completely free this weekend. That's going to get you the PFL plays, UFC plays. I got a good feeling. We're due for a massive card. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into it, boys, because the first fight on the card is no longer Cedriques Dumas. We're getting Jackson McVey versus Chris Ewert. And look, man, I don't really know a whole lot about Chris Ewert yet. I've seen a couple of his fights a while back. I know he's going to be on the supposed to be on the Contender Series this coming season. And of course, I've watched film on Jackson McVey because he was supposed to fight Dumas. But at the end of the day, this one, there's not actually any really lines out on any of these books yet either. But, watching Jackson McVey, he's 7-0, I believe. Ewert's going to be 8-0. But if you look at Jackson, man, the guy has a ton of first-round finishes. That's usually what happens when he steps into the cage, or he's 6-0. Granted, he's not fighting high level of competition yet. I believe his last fight was against the guy who was 4-1, and that's really the best record that he's fought. Yeah, it is. 3-2 is another guy, 7-13, 1-1, 2-5, 5-5. But he's beating all these guys by either knockout or TKO, or he's finding some kind of submission. He's got a decent guillotine, it looks like. He's got a Bravo choke on his record. Against Dumas, I was really excited to bet him just because I knew at some point he could get in the clinch, drag him up to the cage, get him down and submit him. But I don't really know what's going to happen here against Christopher Ewert, because when you look at Christopher Ewert, the guy is 7-0, 5 of those come by knockout, 2 by decision. So this guy's going to be looking to keep it standing, and McVey is pretty hittable. I'm not going to lie. His striking isn't the best. It's not super crafty or anything. I mean, he's going to want to get the fight to the ground. I believe Ewert's going to want to keep the fight standing. And whichever one happens, I think the other is going to have a great chance at finding a finish. So before the lines are even out, first fight on the card, we're taking this fight between McVey and Ewert to end inside the distance. I'll let you guys know later what those odds are going to be because they're not out yet, but I'm looking for a finish to kick off UFC 317. All right, next fight, Nata Diniz taking on Alvin Hines. Another one, man. I mean, for a pay-per-view card, they're bringing on some newcomers a little bit short notice. Alvin Hines, looking at him, he looks a lot older than 33 years old, but I mean, in this matchup, I believe he's going to have to get the wrestling going because Jonathan Diniz hasn't looked great in all of his UFC outings. But one thing's for certain, like the guy's got some good kickboxing and he's got some power in his hands. We saw him go in there against Marcin Prachniow, and that's really been his big, black eye of his UFC career so far. As a doctor stoppage in round 2, he just got taken down and kind of mauled on the ground, split open. But before that, he's beaten Carl Williams, where Carl Williams beat himself by not trying to wrestle. And then he beat Austin Lane by round 2 knockout. And it's like, takes you 2 rounds to knock out Austin Lane. A lot of guys are doing it a lot faster than that. And, he's just a much better striker than him. I expected a little bit more there. But, Alvin Hines, 8-1, or sorry, 7-0. He's undefeated. He's going to be a little bit shorter here. I mean, the way he wins fights generally is going out there early, getting fights to the ground, finding a submission or ground and pound. You know, he's very good when he gets into that top control dominant positions, but against the Diniz, it's so hard to figure out, you know, how much success he's going to have in this spot, just because Diniz hasn't really shown to be the best, you know, have the best grappling defense. Hines hasn't really fought many UFC level or caliber fighters like at all. Yes, he's in LFA, but the guys he's fighting in LFA are either 500 or just kickstarting their pro career. So, you know, when I look at Diniz and I look at these odds, you're getting minus 325 on a guy who, you know, has some faults in the wrestling department versus a Hines who can get that part of his game going. And Diniz by knockouts, minus 135. I'm not exactly loving it. But, you know, at the end of the day, if Hines can get him down, the finish can come. If Diniz gets him down or keeps it standing, I think the finish is also going to be very live. I'm going to take the under 1.5 rounds. These are heavyweights. Both guys will have a little bit of power. So yeah, under 1.5, minus 110. Not super confident in this one, if I'm being honest. This is, you know, one I would stay away from if you have to. But if you're a degen like me and need some money on it, I'm going with the under 1.5. Let's see what happens in this one. Next, this is absolutely ridiculous. Jacoby Smith, Nico Price. And if you didn't know so, Nico's got 7 or 8 kids at home. This guy needs the money. Needs to step in there and make a paycheck to feed the fam. And I totally respect it. But, you know, Nico hasn't looked amazing in his last couple of fights. Goes in there and gets the win over Alex Morono. And I actually bet him and picked him on that fight just because I'm, you know, not a big Morono guy whatsoever. But, man, both those guys look like they were fighting in slow-mo. You can tell Nico's best days are behind him. You know, his very last fight he had was against Timba Garimbo, where Timba just kind of mauled him, did what he wanted, didn't find a finish, but Timba's not the best finisher. But, you know, easily won that fight. Before that, man, I was at the fight when he fought Robbie Lawler. Robbie hit him with those uppercuts in the clinch. And, I mean, it was almost like another slow motion moment. Yes, Robbie has power, don't get me wrong, but he was so in tight, and he just barely landed him, it looked like. And Nico Price was out cold. Legs buckled the whole 9 yards. Now, am I saying Robbie doesn't hit hard? Of course not. Everybody knows Robbie Lawler is an absolute savage. But this kid, Jacoby Smith, is young. He's up and coming. He showed against Preston Parsons. He's got legitimate power in his hands. And if he catches you, he can put anybody out. And I really feel like something like that is coming against Nico Price. I think this is a showcase spot. Obviously, the odds are agreeing. He's minus 2,100. He's 21-1. That's insane for mixed martial arts. But, you know, I just don't really give Nico Price much of a chance in this fight. Maybe I'm going to be absolutely shocked and look like an idiot. But, you know, I do think Nico Price is way past his prime and is definitely getting finished in this spot. I'm going to play, let's see. I'm going to play Jacoby Smith round 1 KO minus 135, and we'll hedge out with round 2 because it's plus 400. It'll give you room to make money either way. Don't see this fight getting past that, if I'm being honest. I think Jacoby Smith can come out here and make a statement and get it done pretty damn early. So that's what we're going with in that fight. Round 1 minus 135. Round 2 plus 400 as a little bit of a hedge there. And then next fight up, we're running through them, boys. Vyacheslav Borshev, Terrence McKinney. I got to find my laptop charger before we get into this one. And we're good. Everybody knows with a good old-fashioned Terrence McKinney fight, the man's got like 6 minutes tops to get this thing done. And if he doesn't, you know, tides can turn on him. And it's been the story of his career. I was at the fight when he fought Esteban Hibovic, and honestly didn't really have a prayer from the time that fight started till the time he got put up against the cage in brutal fashion via knockout. Look, Terrence McKinney has power in the hands. Everybody knows. He's fast. He's explosive. Can wrestle his ass off, too. And, you know, pull off submissions. But what happens when a guy is too tough for his own good, has decent cardio? Everybody beats him. And you look at, there's like a theme with his fights. He's beating guys that he should definitely be well, equipped to beat. And then he's losing to guys that are just tough and durable. Damir Hadzovic shouldn't have been in there with him. Damir had been off for a while. Beat him. Esteban Hivovic is just better than him, or he's at that similar level. Those are the guys that beat him. Brandon Murat shouldn't be in the UFC. Mike Breeden, not in the UFC anymore. Loses to Nazim Sajikov. He's that next middle tier to high tier fighter. Loses to Ismail Bonfim, which he was at even money. The line was even money. Ismail Bonfim is that middle to higher tier fighter. Eric Gonzalez he beat. Not making it in the UFC. Loses to Drew Dober. Middle tier, higher tier fighter. The one good win he's got, 2 good wins really, was Faraz Ziam, and he submitted him in round 1, and Matt Frivola, and he knocked him out in round 1. Where does Slava Claus fit into this scale of like mid-tier, high-tier, low-tier? I don't think he's a low-tier fighter. I don't think he's a high-tier fighter either. Slava Claus is a good technical striker with some power, but super hittable, can get taken down. We've seen him submitted before. So, against a Terrence McKinney, it's like, what do you do? What do you do in this fight? Do you take Terrence McKinney round 1? Do you take Slava Claus in round 2? I think those are your 2 options if you're looking for a prop. I wouldn't pay minus 180 on Terrence McKinney. The odds aren't big enough for Borshev to take plus 150 because there's a chance he just gets sparked. I think you take this fight to end before round 3, so fight doesn't start round 3. You get 10 minutes for one of these guys to find a finish. I think it covers both angles. You might have to pay a little bit of juice, but I think it's a bet that hits. And, these guys are going to come out here looking to finish a fight. They both need a win. They both need a big statement. Somebody's getting put out. Fight does not start round 3. That's the official play for this fight. All right, first order of business before we break down Viviani and Tracy Cortez. We got to put in a little bit of Copenhagen. Really get dialed in for this fight. Women's MMA. Hell yeah. Tracy Cortez, Viviani Araujo. No, okay. Tracy Cortez went through a little spell. Before and after, I believe she fought Rose Namajunas, where, she talks about in an interview, she wasn't quite sure if she wanted to continue fighting. She thought about retiring, but, was talk to God. God told her she had to keep going, follow her dreams, and now she's locked in. If you believe her, I think you take Tracy Cortez in this spot because Tracy Cortez has that style that could give Viviani some problems. She's constantly in her face, back her up against the cage, control her up against the cage, landing knees, elbows, and just make it a grueling fight. Tracy Cortez has shown she can fight that style, and she's beat girls like Jasmine Jasudavicius, beat Melissa Gatto. Tracy's a good wrestler. She comes from a family who also have a lot of wrestlers. I believe she's got 3 or 4 brothers, or there might just be 4 total siblings, and a couple of them are very, very high-level wrestlers. So it's in her DNA, it's in her blood. She's grown up doing it. And if she comes out here and, has the cardio and is constantly getting better, like I think a fighter her age and at her point in her career should be, I think she's going to be better than Viviani. She just can't get caught. And the odds for this fight to go the distance are massive. So it's telling you that Cortez is probably not getting knocked out. She's probably not finding a finish because she doesn't really finish anybody. But it's also telling me that I think Tracy's going to win a lot of valuable minutes up against the cage. Her striking's not going to be, levels and levels below Viviani by any chance here. But I do think her wrestling at this point in her career is going to be a little bit stronger and just be a little bit of a headache for Viviani to try to separate, get at space, and land bombs. I don't think Tracy's going to let her do it. And, I think Tracy Cortez will win this fight. Minus 250, I'm going to take her as a parlay piece in this spot. So the official play for this fight, Tracy Cortez, minus 250 as a parlay piece. It's just, man, women's MMA, you don't want to mess with the unders. Props, you're taking one girl by decision or the other by decision? Tracy Cortez by decision is minus 220. She's minus 250 on the money line. Don't tell me you're taking that prop just to get a 30 cents less. So that's what we're going with. All right, next fight. Maybe fight of the night, Jose Delgado, Hyder Amil. Okay, I started going back and forth on this fight about a week ago, and I've kind of dialed in on who I think is going to win just here a couple of days ago. Now, Jose Delgado off the Contender Series, great finish on the show. Came into the UFC against Connor Matthews, another great finish. But the guy's a little young still, and he's yet to fight a guy like Amil, who's got, a few more UFC fights, is comfortable being this size of an underdog. I mean, he cashed at plus 185 at close against William Gomi. Before that, plus 185 against Jung Young Lee. And, he fought really well against both guys, really, but William Gomi in particular, because we had to see him for a full 15 minutes. It was said that Haider Amil had a pretty nasty, I believe, knee injury going into that fight, so he wasn't 100%. And William Gomi's a guy who wants to fight on the outside, kind of like Jose Delgado is going to want to do here. He's a guy who likes to evade his opponents, use his kicks, wrestle and grapple if he has to. And Haider just did not let him do that for a single second. He forced Gomi to fight this nasty, dirty, in-close, dirty boxing type of fight. And he just couldn't really keep up. Even though Haider was, he ate some really big shots in that fight. He's obviously got a granite chin. He's also got the cardio to go for a full 15 minutes. And he's got the volume, too. It's not like he's just pressuring him, going for wrestling, keeping him against the cage. Haider Amil's throwing 10-punch combinations, trying to take your head off. And, if he swings and misses and he gets hit, then he's going to wrap you up, put you against the cage, collect himself for a minute, look for a takedown if he can. And if he can, he'll separate and then just take 2 steps forward, back in your face, and start throwing again. That's the kind of style of underdog I want to bet on, okay? I don't want to be betting on these guys who don't really have a chance at a finish and don't throw a lot of volume. I want a guy who's going to fight for your money, and that's Haider Amil. I mean, Jose Delgado, nothing against him at all. I think he's going to be a phenomenal fighter. But again, I've seen him lose a fight on the regionals by the guy just staying in his face and making him uncomfortable, taking him down, not really controlling him or holding him down until the end of the fight, but just rinse and repeat that process over and over. And you could tell it frustrated him. And I think that's something that Haider Amil can look at, learn from that, and then implement that kind of game plan in this one. Because nobody really knows what Delgado's cardio is going to look like after he's had to have a hard first, half of the fight, first 7.5 minutes. What's he going to look like after that, after he's had to eat a few shots and his big power shots aren't putting his opponent out? We don't really know. Whereas we know Haider Amil will dig deep and fight for your money late in the fight. So all those reasons, I'm taking Haider Amil. I actually got him at plus 146. He's plus 136 now in a lot of books. But there's going to be my first straight up underdog I'm taking to this card. Give me Haider Amil, the man who will fight for your damn money. Let's go. All right, next fight up, Gregory Rodriguez, Robocop, Obama Cop. Looks like Barack Obama, if Barack Obama has been taking testosterone for 10 years. Taking on Jack Hermansson. I don't know why Jack Hermansson is so inactive. Because, he'll rattle off a big win against a Joe Pyfer, one of the up-and-coming prospects that everybody raves about, like him or not. Jack Hermansson went in there and beat him. 5-round fight, albeit, and that's a different story because Joe Pyfer would have won a 3-rounder if that's what it was. But Jack Hermansson pulls out wins if you start to get tired or if you make a couple of mistakes. And I think there's chances that Robocop could do a couple of those things just based off a couple of his last performances. Robocop's notoriously been pretty hittable. But on the other hand, Jack Hermansson doesn't really have much power, doesn't really knock guys out. Robocop also is shown to get tired in some fights, like he did against Jared Cannonier. But I got to say there was an illness or an injury. I can't remember what I heard exactly, but that was definitely not the Robocop we're used to seeing, where he fought hard for 5 minutes and then just had really nothing left and Jared took over. I don't see that happening against Jack here as much because of the power factor. Yes, Jack could go out there and maybe implement a wrestling game plan, but Robocop on the ground is a black belt and a legitimate one too with good grappling. I mean, to get to Robocop, you got to have some power and you got to have some volume. 2 things I don't really think Jack Hermansson's going to be able to implement in this spot. And so if not, I think Robocop in the first 2 rounds is going to land a lot of big shots. I don't know if he can knock him out. Jack's been notoriously pretty durable. But I do think he's going to win the moments. He's going to land big shots, and it's going to sway, the judges if this is a close fight. Who's doing more damage? It's going to be Robocop. Is Jack going to get him down to the ground using his wrestling and get him into a dominant position? I don't really think so. I was at the fight when Jack fought Roman Dolidze in Orlando, and Roman Delidze put him in like a calf slicer and then just took his back and couldn't submit him. So we just flattened him out in the calf slicer and just TKO'd him. Like, Jack's a good grappler, but I don't think he's good enough. If he's not going out there and, originally had good position over Roman Delidze and then got caught in something like a calf slicer, I don't think he's going to go out there and be able to just dominate Robocop here. So minus 218, another parlay piece for me. I'm taking Gregory Rodriguez minus 218 on the money line. And look, you could target some props in this fight to get a little bit better of a number, but over 2.5 is minus 145. And you're talking about a Robocop who's got some big-ass power. He can knock out anybody, Jack Hermansson including. I don't care how durable he is. So I'm not really messing with that number. The under is plus 115. I'm not confident in that either. And then outside of that, you're looking at knockout, KO, decision props. I'm just going to take Robocop minus 218. Anything over minus 200, I'm going to call a parlay piece. That's what it's going to be. But that's the official play for this fight. All right, everybody's Civil War of the week. Peyton Talbott taking on Felipe Lima. And this is a great one because Peyton Talbott just went out here as a minus 1,200 favorite and lost against Raoni Barcelos. And Felipe Lima is kind of in the same boat as Peyton Talbott as far as career trajectories, trying to make it in the UFC. They're younger, good prospect, good name. But Felipe Lima is doing a lot of winning right now in the UFC. And he's beaten some decent competition. I'm not going to say phenomenal. He beat Muhammad Naimov. Naimov is a guy who does a lot of things pretty good and nothing amazing. And, he was actually beating Felipe Lima in the first round. And then Lima, I believe, won the second or vice versa. 1-1 going into 3. And I thought Naimov was looking pretty good up until he got submitted late in that fight. That's a great win for Felipe Lima. Goes out there against Miles Johns. 30-27's Miles Johns, just kind of showcasing that he's got some wrestling and grappling defense if he needs it, but he's just a better striker than some of these wrestlers. The problem here is Peyton Talbott, regardless of him getting taken down by Barcelos, the guy is a great striker. And he might be a little unorthodox and unconventional, but he's got power for sure. The timing on the knees he was landing on Cameron Simon, the right hands, all of that were deadly, very, very accurate, and made me excited to watch this guy fight another striker. And I'm just kind of conflicted on if that's what we're going to get here or not, because Felipe Lima's obviously got the path to go out there and grapple. Like, that's how you beat Peyton Talbott. But, fighters just don't always go out there and take the best route possible, especially Lima having success in the striking in the last fight or two. I could see him coming out here and kind of getting lulled into a striking match against Peyton Talbott. Peyton Talbott, too. Been 6 months since he got embarrassed. He has one thing to work on in the gym. That's the wrestling defense. I think if Lima does go to the wrestling, we're going to see a few improvements here and there from Peyton Talbott. I'm not really ready to write Talbott off just yet. I think he's still got a chance to be a good fighter in this organization. So I'm not really going to take the underdog line at plus 160, but I think Peyton Talbott is going to use the striking to either, one, find a knockout, it's possible, but at least win the moments enough to win one round. So I'm taking Peyton Talbott plus 3.5 spread. Just got to win one round on the judges' scorecards without getting finished. I think he's tough enough to not get finished. His submission defense looked all right against Barcelos. So plus 3.5 spread, minus 150 on Peyton Talbott. And if you can't get a book that has that line, I think the over 2.5 is decent here, because Lima's shown to be tough. Peyton Talbott, obviously tough. You're getting this fight to go over. I think it goes over more times than not. So, yeah, if you don't have the spread, that's another look. But my official play for this is going to be Talbott plus 3.5 spread. Let's cash that one. All right, I'm going to be biased on this. Renato Moicano, has his podcast with my boy Matty Betts and Gilbert Burns under the Home of Fight banner. And I'm also under the Home of Fight banner, so I'm not going to be betting against Moicano here. But Beneil Dariush, I think, could give him problems, just as well as Renato Moicano at times is going to give Benny some problems too. Moicano, outside of his loss to Islam, was on an absolute tear, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. Like, nobody really talks about it now. He just kind of got trashed because he got submitted by the pound-for-pound number one. But before that, man, absolutely put a beating on Benoit Saint-Denis. Put a beating in round 2 on Jalen Turner. Drew Dober did what he had to do to win. Brad Riddell, submits him round 1. That's not an easy guy to submit there. Loses to Rafael dos Santos, but before that he's submitting Alex Hernandez, Jai Herbert. He's fought very, very good levels of competition in the UFC. And as far as Beneil Dariush, he's older, not very active whatsoever. It's actually been quite a while since we've seen him. It was back in 2023. So we're going on over a year and a half now. And that's when he got absolutely starched by Arman Sarukian. The fight before that got starched by Charles Oliveira. And those are very high-level guys. Like, those are one guy's in the title fight on this card, and the other's the backup for that very same title fight. So we're talking about the highest of high calibers in this division. So you can't really knock him for that. And, before that, he beat Mateusz Gamrot. Mateusz Gamrot, say what you want about him, the guy's grappling and wrestling is phenomenal, and he was able to scramble very, very well in that fight and pull the win out of his hat. Do I think these two are going to go out here and have a straight-up grappling match? I don't. I think it would be a wash. I think, Beneil might have him a little bit as far as the technical grappling goes, but Moicano is a son of a bitch on the ground, dude. This guy is legit. He can get dominant position and do a ton of damage. He can look for submissions. But I think all of that washing out is going to leave these two on the feet in a little bit of a kickboxing match. And I think Moicano's striking is actually a little bit underrated. Beneil Dariush has some power. I think probably a little bit more power than Moicano. But I think Moicano's kicks and his striking getting ever so much better. I slightly lean towards him in a standing fight, especially, seeing the way that Beneil's taken damage in his last couple. So, yeah, all those reasons, I'm going to take, let me look once again here. We got under, oh, man. The line's pretty close. You're getting minus 120 and plus 100. I'm going to go over 2.5 rounds at minus 110. That's going to be my official pick. I think it's a hard-fought battle on the feet where the volume kind of dips at times. The grappling is going to cancel out. And I think this is going to go to a decision. Even though both guys are finishers, sometimes you get those two finishers going at it, and they can't get each other out of there. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 110. A lot of people are going to be looking for a finish in this fight, but I think it's going to be very hard for each of these guys to find a knockout on the other, and I think it's going to be even harder for them to find submissions in the same way. So let's go with the over. That's the official play. Let's go with Moicano. I'm going to be rooting for him, cheering for him, hoping he wins, but this is a good scrap at the end of the day. All right, Joshua Van, Brandon Royval. I might have lied. This might be the Civil War of the week. Not Felipe Lima and Peyton Talbott. Joshua Van fought a couple of weeks ago where he finished Bruno Silva in round 3. Phenomenal performance. I think a lot of people saw it coming. He was like minus 600. But Van is just constantly getting better with the striking. And it doesn't seem possible because the guy's already so damn good. Has a little bit of power in his hands. He's very, very fast, and he fights really well going downhill. The same could be said for Brandon Royval. When he's fighting downhill and he can dictate the pace in the center of the octagon, he's extremely hard to beat too. That's how he beat Brandon Moreno. Brandon Royval, when you look at these guys, has been in there with guys that are just far better than anybody that Joshua Van has fought, outside of basically Charles Johnson. Let's just look at Royval's record for a second. Beats Moreno, beats Tatsuro Taira, a clear 3-2. Even took his back. That's a great grappler in Taira. Was able to take his back and get control time. Knocks out Mateusz Nicolau. Submits Matt Schnell. His loss before all that, Alexandre Pantoja. In fact, his last 2 losses since 2021, Alexandre Pantoja. And before that, he had a shoulder injury and then got finished by Brandon Moreno in round number 1 in 2020. So you're talking about only losing to the top guys in this division, the legitimate top guys who have fought a couple of times for the belt. Moreno, Pantoja. And now a kid who's only 23 years old in Joshua Van, who's talented as all hell. I'm not taking anything away from him. But just fought a few weeks ago, had to cut down to 125. It's not an easy cut for anybody when you're talking about flyweights. He's turning around here now, fighting another guy who has great cardio, something that Van is usually able to weaponize against his opponents. and he's also able to weaponize the volume. But now you're fighting the guy who can probably match you in the volume, match you in the cardio, but has all of this championship level experience and also has a grappling game and some submissions and all of that. And he's pretty damn tough too. I feel like this is a clear click on Brandon Royval as the underdog at plus 100. Slight underdog, even money. I have a feeling, though, people are going to start taking Van in their parlays, and it's a recency bias thing. Everybody loves Van right now, and this line might grow to minus 130, 40, 50, and you're going to get slight underdog money on Brandon Royval. That's kind of what I'm seeing right now happening as we get closer to Saturday. But, a slight dog money, I got to go with my boy Brandon Raw Dog Royval. I think he's got that dog in him as well, just like Van. We saw another guy who can match the pace and volume of Joshua Van. His name was Charles Johnson, and he knocked Van out in the third round badly too. So, neither of these guys are necessarily excused from getting knocked out, but, if somebody's going to finish the other, I do think Royval is going to have a chance just with his knees and spinning back fist kicks, all of that wild, crazy stuff. And, if Van slips on a banana peel and gets his back taken, you could be looking at some trouble too. So, more versatile game all the way around. Brandon Royval. Is the striking as good as Van? Maybe not, but I think it's good enough he's going to compete. Give me Brandon Royval. Let's go. All right, boys, co-main event time. And if you notice, it looks a little lighter on the camera right now. It's because last night, my air conditioner had stopped working in this studio. It's hot as hell. My camera overheated. Got hit with a tornado last week in my town. It's been a hell of a week as far as losing power, all that stuff, but we're grinding through. So before we get into this co-main event, if you guys want a fun casino that you can play for free, they've got slots, blackjack, craps, or you can buy coins and play in every state. Visit Legendz Casino. I mean, if you're living in any state in the U.S., you can play on this. It's a lot of fun. They've got sports books, like I said, table games, slots, everything you can really think of. I'll link it down below, but I wanted to shout them out as one of the sponsors of the show and one of the sponsors of Home of Fight and Home of Fight Picks. Go visit Legendz Casino. Give them a try. Have some fun, especially before UFC 317. Now, order of business. Alexandre Pantoja, Kai Kara France. Man, this one has been another tough one just because when you look at the odds, you're getting a Kai Kara France who has only fought nothing but contenders in the highest levels in the competition, and he's plus 200. Yes, Pantoja's been a great champion. Has he been dominant? I mean, guys have taken him to the brink before. I mean, we're looking at Steve Erceg when he fought him. Steve Erceg was a few bad decisions later in that fight away from becoming world champion. Then Kai Kara France went out and fought him for Erceg's next fight. Absolutely sparked him in round one. So Kai Kara France is on the level, and he's also got the power in his hands to make the difference in any fight against any opponent in the flyweight division, which makes this plus 200 price tag really, really interesting for me. Going against Pantoja, though, if you can't knock him out, I mean, if he gets the grappling going, I might say, he's very hard to deal with just because his scrambles are insane. He's very good at taking the back. On the mat, his submission game is elite. I mean, he makes it very, very hard for opponents to beat him anywhere that's not, if it's a striking match, his striking's not terrible. It's a little unorthodox, can be a little clunky, but it's effective. But, if you engage in that grappling and the clinch up against the cage, he's going to win a lot of those battles. You really have to fight a perfect fight to beat this guy. And Erceg was doing very, very good just because he's got a little bit of a grappling pedigree too. For Kai Kara France, obviously the difference maker is going to be the power in his hands, but I think his grappling defense is pretty solid as well. I don't think Pantoja is a dominant wrestler. I think he's a very elite grappler. But as far as getting the fight to the mat, I think it's going to take KKF, giving up his back on accident, slipping on a banana peel, something like that for Pantoja to really get the grappling going. Plus 200 on this guy is wild to me. It's just, do you fade the champion that has looked very good so far in his career? This is going to be another one. You can call this a cop-out. Call it whatever you want. I'm going to take Kai Kara France plus 5.5 spread at minus 105. So, at the end of the fight, you add up the judges' scorecards. If he's within 5.5 points, your bet hits. But I'm also going to sprinkle on the money line at plus 200. Give out 2 plays on this for people who don't have spread bets on their sports books. But if you do, I think that's a solid play for this fight because he's going to win moments. He's going to land damage, and that's super important when you're trying to steal rounds over guys who are going to look to grapple. So, yeah, well, I'm going to lean on the side of Kai Kara France here. Those are the 2 plays I have for this fight. I think we cash one, and we can make it profitable that way. All right, boys, main event time. Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. The last thing I'm going to say before we get into this one, if you guys do want to support me, I'm never going to ask you for donations, money, nothing like that, okay? I'm coming out here and I'm giving one bet per fight, and if you hit on those bets, you don't have to throw me any of that. That's all your money. But if you do want to support, just sign up on Better Picks using code Nolan. Get yourself a little extra money in your pocket to bet with on this app. You pick over-unders. You can make an 8-leg parlay to 100 times your money, which is plus 10,000. So, that's the best way, and the only way I will allow you guys to give back to me is just sign up to make yourself money using my code. Code Nolan on Better Picks. Let's get into this, boys. Alexandre. Whoa, I had that graphic up still. My bad. Not Alexandre Pantoja. We're talking Ilia Topuria versus Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. I am a little conflicted on the line just because you look at a Charles Oliveira and what he's done and how dangerous he is and the caliber of fighters he's beat. Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, guys like that. And now he's a plus 360. This is a bigger underdog than he was against Islam Makhachev, who was a big 155er. Now you're getting Ilia Topuria, a natural 145er, kind of a tweener. He fights both weight classes or can fight both weight classes. But obviously the difference maker here is that Ilia Topuria might be one of the best, if not the best boxer in the UFC that has devastating power. Knocked out Max Holloway, who'd never been knocked down in over 20 fights. Knocks out Alexander Volkanovski, who's pound for pound the greatest featherweight of this generation by far. And is an extremely durable guy, up until the Islam and Ilia fights. So that's impressive. Now, if you complete the trio, you beat those guys, and now you come out here and you beat Charles Oliveira, you're looking at cementing yourself as one of the greatest to do it. And if, he goes on a run after that, ends up fighting Islam or whoever and can make some noise there, Ilia Topuria will go down as one of the greats, in my opinion. He's got the whole package. He can box. Devastating power, has that wrestling and grappling base. He can submit guys at this level. He's just the complete package, whereas I think Charles is a complete fighter as well. Obviously, most submissions in UFC history, I believe. The difference here is Charles is a little bit older. He's taken a ton of damage. And, we've seen him put down by a lot of people. Like, I'm not just talking, every now and then he gets cracked. Like, it was there for a while. Even when he's winning fights, he's getting dropped by a lot of people. The only difference is here, I think Ilia hits as hard, if not harder than those guys. And Ilia's showing that he can get knockouts in round 1, 2, 3. This guy is passing all the tests, in my opinion. And this is going to be a tough one for sure, because where Charles wins this fight is if he puts him in the clinch, gets that collar tie, uppercuts, knees, uses that Muay Thai. I think that's his path to kind of wear down Ilia Topuria. But I just got to think that with the accuracy of Topuria, I think he's going to land big shots, especially early in this fight. And that makes me pretty nervous for Charles Oliveira. So there's a couple of ways I think you could attack this fight. One is just take Ilia Topuria by knockout. I think it's like minus 165, so there's not a ton of value there right now, especially for a knockout prop. Two, you could give a little respect to Charles Oliveira and say, this is one of the greats of this division. Surely he can last over a round and a half. Over a round and a half is minus 145. And then I think you look at Topuria knockout props. I think round 1, you get some plus money. Round 2, I believe it's like plus 350. Round 3, plus 500, those kind of things. For me, though, I think you just play it, as simple as possible. How's Ilia win this fight? He knocks him out. I think that's kind of a likely outcome if this fight just stays standing and these two are striking. So that's what it's going to be for me. I'm going to take Ilia Topuria by knockout. I don't like playing juice on these plays, on these props. But, when the difference is, are you going to take the money line minus 470? Do I take Charles at plus 360, even though I don't think he wins the fight? Like, it's a little bit of conflict there. So, over 1.5 was the other option. It's just, Ilia is so devastating that what if he comes out here and just sparks Charles Oliveira? So, I'm taking Ilia Topuria by knockout. That's my final play for this card. Once again, I appreciate you guys for being here week in, week out. Don't forget that since I only hit 5 bets last week, I'm giving a couple $100 worth of Ghost product to you guys just for being supporters. All you got to do is comment down below. The last time we gave one of these giveaways, the guy messaged me the other day and got the package from him. So if you're in the comments, shout him out down below. Appreciate you supporting. He was the last giveaway winner. Picking somebody else. I've got just tons of product that I want to give you guys. We got greens, we got creatine, proteins, pretty cool shaker bottles, you know, the whole 9 yards. I'll throw a hat in there, stickers, energy, hydration drinks, all that stuff. So just make sure you comment, hate, comment love, comment your picks. Does not matter to me. I will not discriminate when I pick somebody as the winner. So once again, better picks, code Nolan if you want to support. If you want to get all of my plays, winnable.com/HOF picks. Use code 317 if you're a new user, and you'll get them all completely free. Shout out BetUS, a book you can use in 49 of the 50 states. The promo code is going to be down below for your first deposit match at 150% and your next two at 125%. There is a rollover policy, so understand what that is before you accept the bonus on any offshore book. And also shout out Legendz Casino, the official sponsor of Homa Fight and Homa Fight Picks, a fun casino, slots, table games, sports, you name it, they've got it. They've got a free section where you can go and have some fun for absolutely free. Make sure to check them out as well. As we head into this big card, boys, coming off of a bad week for me last week, but we're going to turn things around. We always do. Out of all of the episodes I've put out, I believe it's 8 or 9 now. I think we've had 1 week, 2 weeks now, counting last week, where we didn't hit as many bets. We hit more. I guess we lost more bets than we won. So that's pretty good. It's a pretty good rate. We're going to keep it going. I love this card a lot. Appreciate you guys all being here. We got a week off next week. I'm going to look to still put out some kind of YouTube video for you all. But if not, we will see you on the next UFC card. Once again, thank you. Let's make some money this weekend at UFC 317.